Going to start with our favorite segment, Overrated, Underrated, in which case we look at the top 25 and we decide whether certain teams are overrated or underrated. But first, before we do that, we're going to look at our pick prediction records. So, week one was good for me, and not so much for Joey. So, in third place, yes, we have overall 5-5. Joey is just at 500. In second place, we have Isaac, 7-3 overall, and in first place is myself, 8-2 after week one. Keep up with that. Our social media director, Abby, is awesome. She makes these great graphics. It's the one you just saw on screen. We post them every week on our social media. Go check that out at TBDCFB on TikTok and Instagram. But underrated, overrated, and since we were at the game, we're not going to talk about Georgia because obviously they're right where they need to be. They played a great game. But we are going to talk about Clemson. So, Joey, overrated or underrated with you being at the game and being a Clemson fan?
I'm going to go ahead and say that, I am basing this off of the current ratings that are out now, which have Clemson at 25. I think that is a good, safe place to have them at this moment. I mean, you really got to look at it, and overall, everybody had a rough week one. And you really got to look at the Clemson-Georgia game and ask yourself, what happened? And really what happened was Clemson had no offense whatsoever. That was due to, whether that was due to play calling, playmaking, a lot of drop passes and just terrible play calling. But their defense was there. I mean, Clemson held them 6-0 in the first half. And then, of course, it started to pull away and get a little out of hand once it hit the second half. So I got to say, at 25, Clemson's at the right spot where they need to be right now. And, if that offense clicks and gets it together, play calling and everything, you could see them start to climb.
Yeah, I'll say this. I didn't get to catch the Georgia and Clemson game on Saturday. Unfortunately, I was actually in Raleigh with my family. But nonetheless, it's hard to give Clemson an overrated spot because they played literally, Georgia. They didn't play, UCF or, FCS Southeast, as College Football 25 might put it. So, nonetheless, I think Clemson's probably in a good spot. I think that they have a chance to go upward. I think the ACC is theirs to lose because obviously we'll get to Florida State later, but Florida State has not had the best start. So, I think Clemson's in a good spot. I don't think that there's anything specific that is weighing on Clemson negatively. I think they played Georgia, and we will see what happens as they start their season against somebody that's not a Bulldog mascot. So we'll see what happens, but I think Clemson's in a good spot. Give them a shot to play a team as a top 25 team that's not Georgia, but I like where Clemson is.
So halfway through the fourth quarter, I believe, before we even scored our last two touchdowns, Joey looks at me and he goes, Clemson is out of the rankings. I personally didn't think they were going to fall that far, and they didn't. Actually, in my own poll, I guessed that they would end up at 25 just because they played the number one team. I think the committee just left them just a little bit of room to prove themselves, to prove that they are a top 25 team, that they just came up against a really good Georgia defense. Like Isaac was saying, it wasn't like UCF or FCS Southeast or whoever. It was the number one team in the country, and Georgia obviously solidified their position at number one. So I got Clemson as right where they need to be as well. I don't think they're overrated. I don't think they're underrated. I think they're right where they need to be. I think they're actually still a strong favorite to win the ACC in general, with the only teams possibly getting in their way being Louisville and Miami, which, speaking of Miami, they are the next team we're going to talk about in overrated, underrated. They played Florida in the Swamp. Me and Joey both picked Miami to win this game, and they did by a lot. Isaac did pick Florida. I think that he picked Florida probably, if I had to guess, probably because it was in the Swamp. It's a tough place to play. However, we said that Cam Ward was going to come out and ball, and he did. Florida did have a little bit, of a problem as Graham Mertz got injured and he was taken out of the game, and the backup had to finish the rest of that game. However, Miami did come out and ball. They actually jumped up to 12, which I think is a great spot for them. I'd like to see a little bit more because I think Florida is also just bad. I think there was a little bit of the conversation is like, okay, so is Florida actually like just buns, or is Miami actually really good? So I'd like to see them play another game against a pretty good opponent, just for me to solidify that. But as of right now, I got Miami underrated.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, with current ranking at 12, there's just a few things that I really wanted to touch up on. their offense it was just dynamic. They could run the ball, they could throw the ball. And I mean, they made a major improvement at quarterback with Cam Ward. I think everybody was saying that going into the season, and he didn't disappoint. Now, there were some, sketchy throws where it's like, all right, you're trying to show off a little bit, but, he still showed up and played ball. When we're talking about the defense, again, it was Florida. Not necessarily everybody's most confident team going into the season, but it doesn't mean that the defense didn't still show up. I mean, they had 3 sacks, 8 tackles for losses. The only thing is, I mean, yeah, they had 2 interceptions and they gave up less than 150 total rushing yards. The only issue I have is 106 of those went to one guy, Montrell Johnson Jr. So my lead concern is kind of what Florida State is having issues with is, are they really able to stop the run? And if they're not, it can become a big issue, as we see with Florida State, which we will talk about later. But yeah, as of right now, I think, again, 12 is a safe spot for Miami right now. I think they're absolutely electric right now. They're the team to beat. And I mean, I even remember over the weekend saying, thank goodness Miami is not on Clemson's schedule, or else we would definitely be a 2-loss team at minimum.
Yes, I'll say this. First of all, I should have picked Miami. I should have gave us another TBA triple pick. I should have gone with Miami. I regret that very much. Nonetheless, I didn't. Obviously, Florida didn't look great. I think Billy Napier is hanging on. I think he's hanging on by the hem of his pants. But I think the Miami honestly is in a good spot. I'm honestly a little shocked. Like, you look at the AP and USC is 13th, Miami's 12th. I kind of thought USC probably should slot in at 12. Maybe have Miami at 11, and then Utah maybe outside the top 12. I don't know. That was kind of my thought process, but I think Miami's in a good spot. I think that, to be fair, not to give them too much credit, they did play a Florida team that is obviously less than great. Billy Napier, I think, is in over his head. But I think Miami in the top 12 is not a bad spot to be after 1 week, and obviously starting off 1-0. Of course, the next couple weeks they've got an easy schedule. They play Florida A&M, and then they play Ball State, and then they play South Florida. So now South Florida gave Bama a scare last year, but nonetheless, the next 2 weeks they're probably going to run it up a little bit. But in a few weeks they'll get Virginia Tech in a night game, and so we'll see what happens. But Miami top 12, I like it.
So this one is a little weird. The next team we're going to look at is Oregon, which nobody expected them to be up only 3 points, 17-14, going into the fourth quarter against Idaho, who's an FCS team. Now, they are a ranked FCS team, but still. Furman got blown out 76-0, and I understand they're a Southern Conference team, but still. So I'll just go ahead and go first. Oregon dropped from 3 to 7, and you guys are going to see on our rankings, I think we might even have them lower than that. Even at 7 versus everybody else in the top 10 who had really, really big wins and good wins over, quality opponents / just absolute blowouts and shutouts over, smaller schools. I think that actually Oregon is overrated right now. I understand they have Dylan Gabriel at quarterback, but that cannot be what carries them through the season. If they're, I understand it being first game jitters or whatever, but goodness, guys. It's only a 10-point win over an FCS school, and you just were, the runner-up in the Pac-12 last year. That's soft. So, yeah, I got him overrated right now.
So with the Oregon game, I really look at it, and I was really trying to figure out what went wrong. Because if you look at the numbers, Dylan Gabriel was 41 for 49 for 380 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions, which if you look at that stat line alone, it's pretty good. Granted, average yard wise, it's about 7 to 8 yards per pass, which kind of hangs around a little bit of the check down area. But they had 31 first downs and nearly 100 rushing yards with Jordan James, which is one of my favorite running backs in the league at the moment. The issue came, defense. They did good on defense, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, 7 tackles for loss. The issue came when it came down to 3rd and 4th down. Oregon went 7 for 16 on 3rd down and 1 for 3 on 4th down. So first of all, that kind of makes you think, how the heck did you get 31 first downs within 2 downs because you barely could do it on the other 2 downs? So that's really where it went wrong. First of all, why are you going for it 3 times on 4th down? And second of all, you had 16 attempts and you couldn't even hit half of those attempts on 3rd down. So, I mean, dropping to 7, I feel is a good decline for them. They're definitely not top 5. I would honestly have them lower, but is it to the deficit to where I would say they're overrated? I really wouldn't say so quite yet. I wouldn't say they should be 15, but I'd probably say, they should probably be hanging around 11, maybe 10. So I'm going to say they're at the right spot, maybe a little overrated, but if they can figure out those really just 3rd downs, you shouldn't be in 4th down situations. If you can figure out the 3rd down situations, you're a top 5 team. Like, you have the offensive talent and your defense is there. You just have to figure out that 1 down.
That's going to bring us to our next 2 underrated and overrated teams, and unfortunately, to my detriment and to Southern California fans' delight, this is going to take us into USC and LSU. I'm just going to say this. I have a lot of thoughts about this game. I'm not going to give a dissertation, but I think a couple of things. Number one, Garrett Nussmeier was 30 for 39 for 308 yards, 2 touchdowns, but the defense gave up almost 450 yards. Undisciplined play by LSU, 10 penalties for 99 yards. Really wasn't a terrible game. I felt like defense looked better, but nonetheless, we did lose. And the play call in the 4th, when we were at 3rd and 1, right up the middle, it kind of, in my opinion, gave the momentum away. USC, I honestly think they're underrated. I really do. I think that whoever it is I honestly am not sure who the DC is for USC. I think Lincoln hired someone who knows what he's doing. I think he has a defense that's actually worthwhile, at least seemingly after 1 week, because our offense put up 415 yards. I think it was. So as a team, LSU did not look bad. I think that USC is underrated. Like I said, I thought they should be top 12 after this past week. I thought they would be within the top 12 when it comes to, you think about CFP, kind of looking ahead. As for LSU, I think LSU is in a good spot. I think we're a top 20 team. I really think we're a top 15 team. But the play calling has to be better, and we have to be more disciplined on both sides of the ball, especially when it comes to penalties. We didn't play a bad game, but obviously we come out on the losing end. I think LSU's in a good spot at 18th. USC, I think they're underrated, and we look forward to what's next.
It really all comes down to this. I think both offenses honestly had pretty good games. Big issue for LSU was they could not successfully run the ball. Statistics, looking at the stats-wise, yes, they could, but when it came down to key moments, they couldn't. There were no rushing touchdowns for LSU, and I think we can all remember the 3rd and 1 running it up the middle. What are you doing? But I also have to say this. We knew USC was going to come out with a great offense. We knew they were going to put up yards. We didn't know USC was going to put out a defense. And now, was it a great defense? No, but I think both defenses showed a bend, don't break mentality, which a lot of Clemson defenses now and in years past have shown, where it's, you might be giving up yards to a great offense. Just don't give up 7. Give up 3 if you need to, but don't give up 6. Don't give up 7. I feel like we saw that there. But I will say LSU is right where they need to be, mainly because the discipline issues. The discipline issues is what gave this game away. That includes play calling, penalties, and just stupid plays like the game-ending interception. I don't think USC won that game by themselves. I think LSU won the game for them. And that's why I will also say that a skyrocket up in rankings, 10 whole ranks from 23 to 13, is egregious. Do I think they should have gone up? Sure, because again, Lincoln Riley is an offensive mastermind, and somehow he found a way to put on a bend don't break defense against LSU. But he did not win that game single-handedly. 99 yards and penalties is ridiculous. 10 penalties. These are all the ones accepted, by the way. There were penalties declined, right? So there's more than just that. So in that instance, I have to say that USC is overrated in the sense that the ranking difference from 23 to 13 is just too much. But LSU's right where they need to be.
USC overrated. LSU as of now right where they need to be. Honestly, I'm with you. There's no way I would have jumped USC 10 spots after a win like that. LSU basically gave them that win. I called LSU to win by a lot last week, and I really thought they were going to. USC's defense definitely played better, but I still wouldn't have ranked them any higher than 19. Obviously, I would have ranked them above LSU because they got the dub over LSU, but I want to see them play another opponent that well. I want to see them win consistently in the Big Ten. I want to see them beat Ohio State and beat Michigan and beat beat Oregon, whoever else is on their schedule. I want to see them go and win those big games on the road, not in neutral sites, and actually, prove to me that they should be a top 12 team. Because right now, I don't think they are. We always know that Lincoln Riley has these amazing offenses, and that last drive proved how great of an offensive mind Lincoln Riley is, right? But their defense, man, yes, I have to give credit. It is so much better than last year, but it is not jump 10 spots better, So that's all I've got to say about USC. I think they're overrated. I think LSU's right where they should be after giving up a loss like that. I think Brian Kelly had every right to be mad, and slam his fist on the table. But to be fair, and I thought Isaac was going to say this and he didn't, but this is what we heard from him the last 3 years. Something's got to change.
Yep. I literally watched his post-game presser, and listen, I give him credit. Out of 11 minutes, it took him 8.5 to say, I've got to coach better. But let me just say, I've heard it. He said, we sit here again. Listen. No disrespect. You talking about the same things? You're the coach, my friend. You're the coach.
There's one more team I want to talk about. I want to do it quickly, but I've got a couple things to say. We're going to talk about Florida State. On Monday night, Florida State lost to Boston College. Let that sink in. Boston College. At home. DJU is awful. This program, what happened? I mean, about 8 months ago, they were whining and complaining that they didn't, more than the Georgia fans were, all right, that they didn't get into the playoffs and how they deserved to be there even without Jordan Travis. But now we're seeing, just like we saw in the Orange Bowl, by the way, we're seeing why they weren't in the playoffs in the first place. They are not a good team without Jordan Travis. And one of the themes on this show is that we like to say is that one player doesn't make a team, but a system quarterback like that, you have to have that. And as soon as they lost him, they were a completely different team. And I was one that was like, 13-0, conference champion. That's kind of weird they don't make the playoffs, which is why I'm glad the 12 teams expanded, or that it expanded to 12 teams. However, dude, Florida State has got to be the most overrated team I've ever seen in the first 2 weeks, including week 0. They're 0-2. They got dropped right from the rankings because they lost by almost 3 scores. So, yeah, I don't even know if you guys have anything to say about FSU, but I just got to say, super overrated, and, yeah, that's all I got.
I will go ahead and say this. I don't think the Boston College game was fully on DJ Uiagalelei. I've stated this before, and I'll state it again and again and again. If you are changing your offensive scheme to make a quarterback comfortable, that's not what you should be doing. We all know DJ has a cannon of an arm. He's just scared to throw it deep.
Yeah, but dude, okay, yes, you're right, because that's what Clemson did. That's what Oregon State did. Now that's what Florida State is doing. But, I mean, dude, how many passes, even 5 or 6 yard forward passes did we see that either got dropped because they were off target or they were at somebody's feet? I mean, dude, 4th and 6, and you throw a massive interception on your own 40 that ends up almost going for a touchdown, and it turns into a touchdown on the next couple plays. So to me, no, I think that it kind of was on DJ. I think that they definitely have set him up for failure. Don't get me wrong, and I think you're absolutely correct. I'm just saying, I could not sit there and say that, well, it wasn't completely on DJ, because in my opinion, it was. They are a worse team with DJ Uiagalelei. That's just my opinion.
No, I 100% agree. I just don't think you can pin this game on DJ, only because, like you said, there were drop passes where it should have gone either to the end zone or at least 20 yards. And then, of course, the play calling as well. Because if you notice, as soon as they changed the play calling to throw it further down the field, they started moving the ball a lot better. But also, you got to look at 25 rushing yards. 25 rushing yards total, the entire game.
In today's game, you cannot play football if you can't run the ball. Complementary football is a big thing, and I know I'm a Georgia fan, but Kirby Smart's talked a lot about it. Even Dabo's talked a lot about it. Nick Saban, obviously. Complementary football wins in football now. You have to be able to run the ball, which opens up the pass, and then when you can pass more, you can run the ball more, right? Because then that opens up the run. It complements each other, and then also having a great defense on top of that. So either way, yeah, not being able to run the ball, DJ being scared / in his head / not making easy throws, that all comes down to him. So I've got Florida State overrated.
Florida State is absolutely overrated. And we also can't ignore that Mike Norvell made the call to go for it on their own 35, I think it was. It was 4th and 15 in a one-score game in the third. If you're down, say the final was a 15-point cover, for a 15-point margin. If you're down 15 in the fourth, you go for it that close to your own side of the field. But in the third, in a one-score football game, you just can't do that. And DJ didn't look great. Florida State, all the talk about, we should be in the CFP, and we have a good defense, and we have a good offense, and Keon Coleman went pro, and Jordan Travis graduated, and now what? No disrespect, but and we can argue that Boston College brought it. They brought it because last season they had them on the ropes up north, right? But there's no excuse. A 2-touchdown loss in Tallahassee on a Monday night with this new transfer quarterback who is, by the way, making money under the NIL. I got to say, I can't help but wonder, had they put in Brock Glenn, if they'd have been in a better place. And I also think that Tate Rodemaker, if he wouldn't have transferred to Southern Miss, they could have put him in. Tate Rodemaker was a great quarterback, but Brock Glenn's also really good. I got to say, man, DJ's getting paid from the transfer portal, from NIL, and all these other things. I get it. But if you're Mike Norvell, you've got to consider somebody else because you're not going to win with DJ. You're just not. You lost to – listen, Georgia State got a good offense. Cool. And if you can't run the ball, you can't pass the ball, like what we just said. But you've got to give somebody else a shot to give you a chance to win. Florida State, Tallahassee, severely, severely overrated. And I hate it. I like Mike Norvell. One of my best friends at work is a Florida State fan. But yeah, overrated. Put somebody else in. DJ, it's not the move. DJ, turn it down.